Most people using AI coding tools are just prompting and praying. They type something in, hope the output is good, and when it's not, they start over entirely. But there's a feature that almost no one's using properly that completely changes how AI agents write code for you, and it's called skills. And once you set these up, your AI agent actually learns how you want things built and can do this repeatedly. Let me show you exactly how they work and how to set them up in this video. So let's dive into AI agent skills. Now, you may have heard of a skill before, but effectively what this is just a repeatable workflow that your AI agent can use. Now, you can go to an AI agent, you can give it a normal prompt, you can tell it to browse the internet or generate a daily report, and you can give it a really detailed prompt that explains what you want. However, a lot of times you want to do these actions repeatedly. You want to do it every day, or maybe you're going to run it multiple times in a session, or maybe you want to share this workflow with one of your teammates. Now, if that's the case, that makes a really good candidate for a skill, because what a skill is essentially a set of instructions along with other potential files or scripts that your AI agent has access to that it can look up when needed and use to perform some type of task. So rather than copying and pasting a prompt, you can create something called a skill that just wraps this repeatable workflow. Your AI agent will have access to that skill, and when you ask it to do something that may require the skill, it can look up the skill, find the details of the skill, read through it, reference other files, and then execute it repeatedly. This is going to give you a lot more consistency, and also this is significantly better than just writing massive prompts or having all of these files just sitting in random places in your repo, because the way that skills work in a lot of different tools is that they're looked up dynamically. So your AI agent will know the name of a skill and a short description, but that's all it will have in its context. So it doesn't need to load 500 different skills, fully at once, which is going to take up a lot of tokens. It will simply say, okay, you're asking me to generate a daily report. Oh, I see a skill that says daily report. Okay, let me look that up and then check it. And if it's the right skill, it will go ahead and execute it. Now for this video, I'm going to show you how to build skills inside of a platform or coding tool called TRAE Solo. It's super cool. I've used the TRAE editor for a long time, and they recently released their new Solo edition, which we're going to dive into. But if I scroll through their docs here, you can see that skills typically live in a skill folder. You have a skill.md file, which is the required part of a skill that explains what it does, the instructions, effectively the reusable prompt the AI agent is going to read. And then you can have various other resources inside of that skill that your AI agent can reference, that you can reference directly from this file. So here's an example of what a skill looks like, and this is typically the same across all of your major AI coding platforms. So you have the name, you have a brief description, and this is all that's loaded into the context when the AI agent is kind of viewing these skills before executing it. Then you have the description of the skill, and only if the agent thinks it needs to use this skill will it read all of that, and then again reference the other files. Now, making skills is really simple. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it, but by having multiple skills in your project, you're going to make yourself more productive, you're going to get more consistent responses, you're going to have lower context bloat, and you're going to have workflows that you can share with your team that will ultimately just make the organization better when it comes to developing and using AI tools. So with that said, I want to hop into TRAE Solo. Massive shout out to them, by the way, for sponsoring today's video. I'm going to show you how to set up various different skills and how to do agentic coding with this new skills pattern. All right, so I'm inside of the new TRAE Solo desktop application. Now, right now I'm just using a beta release, hence why you don't see any projects or anything. However, if you'd like to get access to this now for free, TRAE gave me a few unique invite codes, which I'll leave in the description, that you can use. Now, you may remember that a few months ago I actually made a video giving a full tutorial on the original TRAE code editor, which is one of the best free AI coding editors because a lot of them are very heavily paid. TRAE has always had a really generous free plan, and same thing with the Solo app, you can use it for free. And I'm going to give you a quick lay of the land, and then I want to go directly into building skills and focus this on something agnostic that you could use in any tool that you want. Now, if you do want to mess around in this editor, you can download the desktop app. You can also use it fully from the web. I'll leave a link to that below. Now, what you're going to notice right away is that, let me zoom in a little bit, we have these two modes. We have this MTC mode, which I'm in right now, which is more than coding, which gives you access to kind of just like a general AI agent that can utilize skills that you built, search the web, do research, etc. And then you have a full code mode. Now, this is what I want to focus on in this video because obviously a lot of you watching this are developers, but this is designed for building full-scale applications using natural language and to give you kind of an easier, learning curve compared to a full-blown coding IDE. This is meant to really just be prompting and then building everything, seeing the preview in real time, all of that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do for now is just go to select a project. and I'm going to make a new folder on my desktop, and I'm just going to call this web app because I just want to build a simple web app for this tutorial so I can show you the various skills. So now that I've done that and I've allowed access to TRAE, we can see that we're working directly inside of this project, and I'm going to just start giving this some prompts to build out some various skills, and then we're going to build and craft a full web application so you can see how the skills tie in. So like I mentioned before, the skill is a repeatable workflow or something that this editor should know to use whenever you want to perform a particular task. I know that sounds kind of vague, but you can create a whole bunch of different skills. And if you go to the skills tab here, you'll see there's actually a bunch from the skills marketplace that you can install by default. For example, UI design, brand guidelines, all of this. So I'm going to start by actually bringing this front end skill in here. And if we just quickly have a look, we can see what this skill looks like. So we can see it says goal, ship interfaces, the field deliberate, premium, and current, default towards award level composition, one big idea, strong imagery. Okay, working model before building, write these 3 things, visual, content, interactions, and it goes through in detail and explains how it should work on the front end. So let's install that just from the marketplace. This is by OpenAI, and now we'll have that in our skills list, and we'll be able to toggle that on and use that directly from our web app. So now if we go back here to our project, so let's go to task and make sure we're in this project, you can see that if we type / here, you'll notice that the skill pops up immediately, so / front end skill, and we could utilize this skill by just giving it some context and saying, hey, build me a front end for whatever it is that we want built. So that's how we just bring in a pre-built skill, very straightforward, but of course we can build our own. Now to build our own, we have a few options. We could go to skills, we could go to upload skill, and then we can just drag in a skill.md file, or we can just go back to our task here, and then we can ask TRAE to make one for us. Now in terms of creating the skills, like I said, you can upload the local skills, you can install them from the skill marketplace, or we can actually just ask TRAE to generate it itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy a link to this documentation, I'm going to paste it in this new task, and I'm going to quickly ask it to generate a new skill in this project. Hey, look at the documentation that I just provided to you and create a local project-based skill for working with back-end development and specifically creating a fast API application. I want this skill to be used anytime any back-end work is done, and generally what I want it to say is that when we're working with fast API, we need to separate all of our different API routes based on the category. So for example, auth has its own router, database has its own router, user routes, whatever, right? Anything based on the section or the category of API needs to be separated. I also don't want you to write long doc strings or comments. We want to leave comments to a minimum, always keep them short and concise, and for doc strings, make them maximum 1 sentence and only when required. Okay, so I'm just giving some standard coding conventions for working with fast API that I want to use. Obviously in a real app, you can make this more detailed, and I'm going to hit enter, and what this should be able to do for us is now create a new skill in our local directory. And just quickly, guys, because you always ask me this, the way that I'm talking into my computer and getting it to transcribe really quickly is using a tool called Wispr Flow. They've been a long-term partner of mine. I actually have a unique discount code in the description in case you guys want to try it out. It is free to use, and then obviously you can upgrade to like a paid plan, but it is the best dictation and the only dictation that I use for all of my AI coding, all of my just anything that requires typing on the computer at this point. It's also available on mobile, and it's really, really good and much better than the built-in dictation because it actually uses AI models in the background to transcribe it in real time. First of all, faster, but also just a lot more accurate and with various like bullet points and stuff. So you'll see when I'm talking, sometimes it like automatically formats it. I just figured I'd shout that out because you guys always ask me how I'm using it, and yes, the tool is Wispr Flow. All right, so it's just created this skill for us. You can see the directory that it created. We have the skill.md file, and now we can open it up and we can directly read it, or we can ask the AI to modify. So we can see that the name of the skill is Fast API Backend. The description is used anytime backend work is done, and then this is exactly what it's written out, which is what we asked for. Now, what I would recommend with your skills is that, let me get out of this here, that you iterate on them over time and you keep using the skill and improving it until eventually it's at a place where you want it to be. Now, notice again, when we open it up, right, that it explains what it needs to do and gives examples. Now, these examples can be directly inside of the skill, or we can put them in separate files that are inside of this skill folder and then have it reference those files so you can create, reusable scripts, which is where skills get very useful. Okay, so now in order to use this skill, what we could do is just type /, right, and then go / fast API backend and tell it to do something. However, we don't even need to do that. TRAE will automatically look up the skills just like many other tools will do and use them when it infers that it needs to do that. So if I say something like, hey, I want you to scaffold a CRUD backend API for a simple library application in Fast API, and then later we're going to work on the front end. For now, just build the backend. Okay, if I do that and then hit enter, it should know to now reference this skill because we've talked about Fast API and it has that skill in its context. You can see that it's launching the skill, Fast API backend, loading it, right? And it's only loading it when needed. And now if we look at the context, we can see the skill.md file has been loaded, right? And we can see the web search was loaded here previously. So it says, okay, it's reading through the skill, it's developing the backend, and now we'll start building this out for us. Now, while this is executing, I'll just show you that if you're inside this editor, you can actually view the files if you just click on the session that you're inside of here and go to File Management. And also, you can run multiple tasks at the same time. So this can run in the background, and then I could start making a new skill or asking it to update something, right? And you can see that it's going to use this solo auto model, and we can select the project we want to work inside. So notice it actually just gave me the pop-up here that this is now done, or it's at least waiting for my approval. So I'm going to go delete, because we're going to delete this test API file that we don't need, and it's going to continue walking through this using the skill, building out the app. And again, you can view it from directly inside of here, so we can see the skill, we can see our router, so following that convention that I mentioned, main.py, requirements, all of that kind of stuff, and then we can manually add files and obviously click into these, edit them, mess with them, etc. And we can even click this button and then view them inside of one of the editors. So I guess it's still building this out. We can see authors, and then if we wanted to actually start writing the code for this or modifying it manually, we could open it in TRAE, Cursor, PyCharm, whatever it is that you prefer, because this is designed to be used for just like natural language, not writing the code in this editor. All right, so this is pretty good, and it's actually mentioned to us that it's running the backend at this endpoint. So I'm just gonna go to my browser. Let's just open up a new window and just type this in, and it says, welcome to the library API. So at least the API is running and it has this background process going with that, which is good. However, what I want to do now is add another skill so I can show you how these compound that's going to automatically test the API for us, because I don't want to have to manually test it every single time. I'm going to say, okay, this is good. Now, following the documentation that I referenced previously, I would like you to create a new skill called test API. Anytime you develop a new API endpoint, I would like you to run this skill that sends network requests using curl to this endpoint to test that all of the different cases work. I want you to then create a report that explains to me all of the requests that you sent, all of the responses that you got back, anything that's working and anything that's not working, and a small suggestion for where changes need to be made. Overall, we need to have full coverage of all of the endpoints, and anytime any endpoint is changed or modifies, we need to retest that. Okay, so I'm just creating this kind of more detailed skill so that I can just run, hey, test endpoint goes test all the endpoints for me, and I don't need to do that manually. Okay, so it looks like it's made this skill here. Just quickly having a look at this, giving me a report example. Okay, cool. And now let's just close this and let's just run this. So let's go / and then go here to test API. And let's just run it and have it test the API. Okay, sweet. So it just ran this. We can see that it's giving me the full report here of all of the different requests that it sent out. It says everything's working. It says nothing is explicitly broken and everything seems to be fine. And then it gave us a suggestion on some bug, which we could then go and fix. So I think last thing I want to do here is now just create a simple front end for this. So I'm going to go / and let's go to the front end skill, and I'm going to say, generate a simple front end for this project that allows me to utilize the full CRUD API. Keep it basic, clean, simple, and minimalist. Okay, and then we're using the front end skill, which we installed from the marketplace. So now it should go ahead and start writing all of that front end code. Okay, so it looks like it built all of this out using the front end skill. We can see that I'm inside of the UI right now. It actually just opened this for me. I didn't even do anything here. And actually, I just noticed you can actually select elements directly on the UI, and I think you can reference them in the chat, which is kind of cool. I didn't know that they had that as a feature. But what I'm going to do is just add a new author. So let's just go, Tim Rosica. Let's just make sure that works. Okay, looks like we have an author. Let's add a new book. I don't know, Tim 1, author ID 1, year 2000. Create the book, looks like we have a new book, and then we could go from there. I know it's super simple, right? Because I just wanted to create something basic just to show you how to do the skills. So now let's just do one more prompt. This is good. Now I want you to create a really beautiful, pretty version of this where we have like animated graphics, animations, transitions, and it shows like a full catalog. I also want you to seed the database so that we have a ton of different books and authors already there. Cool, and I just want to see what that's going to give me. All right, so it just created this now. Interestingly, it actually is like previewing the web page itself. So it's like opening it, viewing it, and then making changes if there's like any errors, which is kind of cool. We can see anyways, this is what it looks like. So we have a bunch of like books that are generated. We can go to the workspace. we can see the books that are here, and then of course we can create them, delete them, etc. And that was made using the front end skill, which I think is really clean actually, and looks like pretty good based on what I asked it to do. Now, of course, we could go, a lot crazier here, but generally that's kind of the usefulness of skills and how to create them. Now, what I do want to mention here is that while skills are particularly useful for coding tasks, they're also useful for just general tasks. So with TRAE, I just switched over to the MTC mode here, more than coding, which lets you handle, as it says here, like office tasks, for example. And here we can create skills as well to, again, automate repetitive workflows. And actually, when we talk about productivity and like office level tasks, a lot of times things that you're doing are really, really repetitive. And if you just spend a little bit of time crafting the perfect skill, then you can just trigger the skill and it just does what you need it to do. For example, I have skills in other AI coding tools that are automatically like doing accounting for me. They go read my email, pick up any receipts, add them to a custom piece of software that I have. But what I'll do here is I'll just build a quick skill to demonstrate how we could do, for example, research and how we could run that every single day. So I'm going to say, hey, I want you to create a new research skill. What I would like you to do is every single morning or whenever I trigger this skill, I want you to go and search for all of the trending AI topics, tools, editors, etc., news, whatever investment. And I would like you to create a really concise summary that would fit in less than 250 words, that's bullet point format, that tells me exactly what I need to know and then gives me one clear video title idea that I could post on YouTube. I am Tech with Tim. I run a large coding/AI YouTube channel, so keep that in mind as context. Wrap this in a skill, create it for me. Now it's telling me I got to connect this to a project, so let me just put it in this web app one here, and we'll just put it in that project for now. But anyways, I wanted to create this skill, so I'm going to go tell it, hey, make this skill. This is what I want you to do. And then after I run this skill, of course, I can enhance it and improve it, and it's going to actually start asking me some questions here. So how should the skill deliver the daily output? Let's put it in markdown text. Let's just search for all of these. Okay. Next, where should the skill be allowed to pull sources from? Let's just go literally everything. Okay. And is there any additional information? No. And then it's going to start building that. All right, so it made this skill for me in the markdown file, however, didn't save it in the proper format. So I'm just going to tell it, hey, rewrite it using these docs because I need to give it the context so it knows how to save this specifically for TRAE. Okay, so we can see it's now adjusted the skill. It's created a few of these files, and this is one of the more advanced ones that I'm talking about, where if we go look at .TRAE, we look at skills, we look at the daily brief, you can see that it also has examples, right, directly in the folder, as well as resources, and then the main skill.md file. So now what I would do is just use this. So I'm just going to go / and let's find the skills. So this is Tech with Tim daily brief, and just run it and let's see what it gives us. And then again, if I was actually going to use this, I would enhance it into the skills at the level that I want. Then I could share with other people and just have my workflow completely automated. This also gets really useful when you connect it to various other tools. So for example, you might connect to an MCP server here, right? Or you might add some other rules or configuration, and then you can build a skill that tells the AI agent exactly how to use those tools. So if you connect this to something like Composio, for example, or Zapier MCP or a custom MCP, a lot of times those MCPs rely on the agent kind of doing some trial and error, or they're not well documented. So you could build a skill that says, hey, anytime you use the MCP server, follow this set of instructions. And then you just get a much better, more accurate, faster response from the model. And effectively, anytime you find yourself doing something more than 1, 2, 3 times, just build it into a skill. And the beauty is you can get the AI agent to create this skill because of how good the models currently are. So you can see building design to code in VS Code, Figma, MCP plus GitHub Copilot GPT 5.4. I guess it just found some videos or some examples of that, I guess, performing well or popping up, and you get the idea. Okay, so the last thing that I want to do is just quickly talk about skills versus some other features that you're going to see in these AI coding tools. Now we have rules. Rules are different than skills. Rules are going to be loaded in full once at the start of the chat. So if you have really strict things that you want the model to always be following, it's better that you put those in a rule rather than a skill, because a skill is going to be dynamically looked up and just used when it's needed, whereas a rule is kind of a hard fact that the model should always follow, and it's immediately loaded in the context. So that's kind of the main difference. And then MCP servers, I just discussed this. MCP servers expose various tools to the model to use. It's different than a skill because a skill may include multiple tools inside of it. For example, for my accounting skill that I have set up, I say, go to Gmail using this MCP server. look through all of the receipts, download them, then use this other tool to upload them to this, accounting software that I have. Use this other MCP server. So that's kind of the main difference there. And you should just keep that in mind. And then, of course, there's a bunch of other stuff you can do here inside of TRAE and these coding tools to make yourself more productive. But this was mostly just meant to focus on skills. So generally speaking, skills are going to make you just a lot better and more productive when you're using AI agents specifically for coding. This new TRAE Solo application that I'm in is super cool. Again, you can use it for free. You can try it out, see if you like it. I really do like the fact that they have this MTC tab as well as the code tab, so I can just stay in the one editor, and it is a lot more cost effective than a lot of the other competitors out there. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments down below, and I look forward to seeing you in another one.